and I used to appear out the back and said, "Dad, can I have a break?" And he said, "No, not until it's finished."
So what I thought we'd do is a podcast to introduce ourselves to the world. And I thought the way we would start it is if you tell your story of how you sort of came from nothing, started a business, went into accountancy, grew the brand Roamwild, and then I'll talk about my endeavours.
How long we got?
Have one you want.
Well, first of all, I started accountancy before I started the business.
I know, I made a mistake there.
So, yeah, so we, I started...
Take it back from when you were, say, 16, 15, 16.
Well, I can take it before then, because with Popper, my dad, Popper's business, I worked in that when I was literally from 13 on a weekend, and I would help unload the lorries, and then as I developed more and more, then Popper he pushed me very hard, because he wanted me to be able to be independent and be successful for myself. So what he did, he worked me hard. I often had to unload a container on my own of it was wholesale fruit back then, and then he then taught me how to sell the hard way
on the fruit market,
in the fruit business. Now Spitalfields in East London is now a really hip shopping area full of quaint and cool shops, but back then it was a very rough and tough place, full of East End gangsters.
Take it back to the year.
Business.
I want to picture it. What year was it?
You're going back to, well, I was about 13, you're going back about 1976, 1977, and it was very different to now. And what he taught me to do was to sell a product which was not necessarily exclusive, and he taught me how to sell it to different customers, how to grab a customer off the street. They came visiting the market, we were on the front of the market, but he taught me how to sell, and it was very, very hard. And that was my first true lesson. And then I went into accountancy, and I studied as a chartered accountant. I left school, I went to college for a year. Back then you could do that. You didn't have to go to university, and I went to accountancy school for a year, and then I worked in a West End firm, and I learned a different aspect of business, which was what chartered accountants learn: financial advice, financial accounting, monitoring how a business is doing by the day, and that's what I do. And I qualified as a chartered accountant, and then soon realised that I didn't want to stay in accountancy, I want to stay in my own business. I wanted to start my own business rather.
What was Popper doing at that time?
Popper was retired.
50.
He was semi-retired, he was bored, and I said to him, "Dad, I want to leave accountancy." I said to Mum and Dad, "I want to leave accountancy, I want to start my own business." And they were shocked. They were worried, because I was getting a very good living. You know, as a young man, I was 26, 27 years old, and they were worried because I wanted to start something from scratch.
Were you contributing to their household when you were working for accountancy, and were they semi-relying on you to bring in food and stuff?
My brother and I were paying our way.
So they were obviously nervous about that as well.
Well, I don't think it was that. I think they were worried about me giving up a job where I was well paid, which I did, and literally start from nothing. But I knew it was. I had a drive. I had a motivation to do this.
How old were you?
27 years old. That was around 92.
Almost the pinnacle of your career.
Yep, and then there was a big recession as well to top it off, and I caught chickenpox. So, and at the same time, I did an MBA because I was worried as well that if the business didn't work out well, if I had to go back into accountancy. I got my MBA, and I thought being a chartered accountant and an MBA would give me an advantage in getting a job. As it happens, the MBA helped me with the business as well. So yeah, I started and I thought, what am I going to do? And over several months before I left, I thought I want something that's good when it's sunny, like today, or when it's raining. And that's why we went into garden tools and umbrellas.
Umbrellas for the rain, garden tools for the sun. Makes sense.
Well, I don't care what the weather is, because we'll always be
Busy.
selling something. And I asked Popper to help, and then he asked his brother. His brother also was semi-retired, Brian, who was with us for many years, and then has recently retired.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Simon. I've got him. He was a colleague in accountancy, and he helped and is still with us today, as you know.
So it varies much, that.
But no one knew anything. It was literally. When I think now what I did, I'm quite. Nerve-wracking, because I literally left a well-paid job that was giving me a paycheck at the end of the month,
Mm-hmm.
and a company car,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the perks, and it was secure, and I literally left that. And I remember the first day I went into my second bedroom of my flat, and there was a fax machine. I had a fax machine and a pen and paper, and that was it.
Scary.
And each night, because I had no money as well, because I'd left my job, I used to go back to my parents just to have some dinner, and they used to say, "How's it going?" nervously, asking me, trying to get information. And I just said, "Yeah, it's going fine, it's going fine." And all the time I was planning. And then over 9 months this was, and I tested the market, I researched it. You didn't have the internet back then, or it was very, very rare anyone had the internet. So I was relying on looking in magazines. We still advertise now in Gardeners World magazine, and we advertised back then as well. And I went to news agents to look at umbrellas in golf magazines, garden tools in gardening magazines.
Mm-hmm.
The research was much, much harder. Now you can just look on the internet and get all the research you want within half an hour, and you can almost become an expert. But back then,
not anyone could become an entrepreneur.
Correct. It was much, much harder. I approached Lloyds Bank when we were ready, and they were brilliant, as they have been today, and we've been with them ever since. And they lent. I went to my local branch in Enfield. I wanted £2,000 as a loan, and they refused. And my old boss in accountancy introduced me to someone at Lloyds Bank at a higher level, corporate. And he said he looked at my business plan, which was not pages long. It was just because I don't agree with all that. I just did the bare facts.
So what was the outline of the business plan? Objectives and stuff like that, or was it just?
I think what did it was said I wanted to sell something when it's raining and something when it's nice weather.
When you had it planned, that was umbrellas and garden tools.
Yeah, and then I flew out to China, Taiwan actually. I flew out to back then. China was still unreliable. Hong Kong, I didn't know what I was doing. I just got on a plane. I spoke to my friend. I didn't have any money. A friend of mine, his friend actually worked in Hong Kong. And I thanked him to this day. I saw him about 3 years ago, and I said, "Thank you so much. Anything you want, let me know." Because this guy was a friend of a friend. I did not know him, and he put me up in Hong Kong. He wasn't there. He let me use his flat in Hong Kong because I couldn't afford a hotel.
Mm.
I had no money. I spent my money on the flight and eating in McDonald's, yet he put me up in his hotel in a lovely apartment in Hong Kong, and I'm eternally grateful to him because he didn't have to do that, but he was a friend of a friend, and he did a wonderful thing. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I found some suppliers. I went to some trade shows, and that's how we got started. And boy, did we make some mistakes on the way. Some of the umbrella quality was absolutely terrible.
Mm-hmm. I remember the stories.
And Popper used to go down to this third-party warehouse we were using. The shipment used to come in, it was diabolical. There was mistakes. There was that's why. And even to this day, there are suppliers out there that are really bad. People think they can go to China and just order umbrellas, you can't.
But surely the pressure back then was much more than the pressure is now.
But the pressure back then was because I didn't have any money.
So when you get pressure now, it's obviously nowhere near as how it was back then. So it must feel much less now than it was then. So when you get a bit of pressure now, you can deal with it much better than you dealt with it back then. And really, in reality, when you get a bit of pressure, you feel, well, it's going to sort itself out. I'll work at it.
Absolutely, but there is we're thankfully a strong company through a lot of hard work. We're a strong company, and so when something does go wrong, it's a kick in the teeth rather than the end.
Yeah.
Even with this COVID, it's been very hard, but as a strong business, we've handled it and weathered through far better than many companies out there, and that's because of the way I set it up, with minimal debt, not overstretching, growing gradually over the last 25-30 years, and giving the customer a great product, and not getting into trouble with poor quality. There's so many pitfalls and so many things that I learned and have instilled in the staff here, that when bad things do happen that are out of your control, we can weather it. A lot of companies overstretch. They do business which they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be going for this huge order which has minimal profit around it, because if it goes wrong and you're on a low margin, the customer walks away or maybe even goes bust, and you're left with having to pay the supplier or holding the stock. There's so many pitfalls, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, I thought we need to develop our own products, and I'd always had a lot of ideas, but had never had the time to implement them.
It's funny you say that, because when I was a kid, I remember speaking to my friends about it, and we were talking about you importing products from America to England, and I always said, I've no idea why Dad doesn't make his own products.
Oh, well, there you go.
And in 2015, you started it yourself. And that's how I thought, because I knew I was going to go into the business, because I had an interest in it from a young age, and I said to myself, that's how I'm going to innovate Oak Thrift, was I was going to create new products as opposed to just importing them. And I was getting very excited about that. That's when I was a lot younger though, and then obviously when I was older is when you started.
Well, when you're selling someone else's products, you've got the problem with the customer, if there's a problem, and you've got the problem with the supplier. If it's someone else's product and they suddenly decide, even under contract,
you've got a lack of control,
that you have not sold enough, or they're not happy with what you're doing, or whatever reason, suddenly you can lose a major chunk of your business if you're relying on 1 or 2 products.
That's right.
So I was never happy with that, and I've always divided and ruled. So we've got lots of products, we've got lots of customers, and then if the customer's upset, we do everything we can to appease them.
And as you said before, it actually hurts, it hits, doesn't it? Because it is your own thing, and then when someone's upset,
I take it personally more than
attack.
Financially. Yes.
Yeah.
If one customer complains about our spade or saw, I take it personally to think, well, what have we done wrong? What I want to sort this out, because they should be happy. Because I would never get involved with anything that we were not 100% behind. Ever. We don't look for gimmicks and gizmos and just quick buck ideas. We are in it for the long term. And that is, that's why we built Roamwild. That's why James, he walked in my office with an idea, a product idea, but I saw he was a talented designer. He just didn't have the right product idea, but I knew he could help me with my ideas, and in turn he's developed some ideas as well, and that's why Roamwild is moving forward at such a great rate. And I'll tell you now, I'm happier now, the whole overall business than I ever was. Even though it's got very difficult with COVID, I just know we have the infrastructure and the setup.
I think the plans we've got and the way it's going forward is very exciting, and there's a hell of a lot of potential.
Well, I'm very excited by by the young talent that's joining us as well.
Yeah.
You know, behind the camera and other people.
Yeah.
And
the way it can excel is
I just think it's
with the right strategy, with the right people, the right products, it will boom.
It will, as long as we show customers we care, which we do.
If we do. So yeah.
And you have come on wonderfully in the last 3 years.
Yes.
When I think back when you left school and you did that, you know, digital marketing degree, and
well, it wasn't a degree. I was gonna do a degree, but I was looking into universities. I was looking into marketing courses, and I saw that they were very theoretical and not practical at all. So then I did research in digital marketing, more practical digital marketing courses in London. Was researching them for probably a couple months. Found one, showed you it. You said it looked great. Did it. Started here in what year was it? 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Started in 2017. And then the thing is people will listen to your story and they go, look how your dad struggled.
Mm-hmm.
Look how what he went through. And then you've just walked into it. I'll happily say I walked into the business because I knew that's what I wanted to do, and the opportunity was there. It's not like if I didn't want to do it and I had another passion and then I went into this as like a safety net, then okay, but I knew I wanted to go into the business and the opportunity was there, so I took it. So then I did my digital marketing diploma, worked with you for a year, and then was just learning on the job. I think people overestimate university, and I think they underestimate YouTube.
But you're very good at researching. That's what I'm
saying.
That's
so
what
I learned YouTube, the University of YouTube.
I know.
The amount of stuff that is on YouTube is ridiculous, and the amount I learned on YouTube again was ridiculous. So there was a mix between YouTube and different courses whilst working with you. And then it was only about the start of this year where I really excelled.
But do you remember with the driving when I was teaching you to drive?
I learned driving
and
on
you took
YouTube.
about 12 lessons.
That's right, yeah.
Then on YouTube, and then I taught you how to drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
soon got rid of my driving teacher, and I said there's no need for that. No need for that. And then found Purple Driving on YouTube with the YouTube
Although
channel.
there is that one time at night when I
Almost
took you
killed
out,
us.
and yeah, I remember that. You didn't
That's
stop
it.
at the T-junction.
Yeah,
You decided it wasn't for you.
That's because I learned it on YouTube.
And
They
you-
said try rolling it in second as you go out and don't change to first. So I think I'll try this at this T-junction.
the thing-
I rolled out, didn't look to the right, went out and bosh! Wasn't a crash. Almost. He had to swerve out. But
that's the research.
yeah, and I passed my test first time, so
Well, a lot of things you've done is through research, and that's what business has taught you, and you taught yourself. It's
yeah, like I'll never, if I came in and it just stayed the way it was, in my opinion, though it was still good, that'd be bad.
Mhm.
I think it's extremely important to grow, obviously, and I think that is what I'm starting to do. I was learning the first 2 years, and I say at the beginning of this year is where I really put my knowledge into practice. The fact that we're doing this podcast,
yeah,
we would have never have done this.
no,
The fact that we're doing this, the fact that the idea is to put out more and more content every day.
Mhm.
The stuff I'm learning with Facebook ads, the stuff that I'm saying to constantly put out content. And yes, there's other people who have ideas and stuff, but how many of them worked a 15-hour day, packing orders at 8 AM in the morning to 9 PM at night?
Well, during lockdown, that's what we had to do.
Well, that's what I was doing, and then I was still, planning this on the weekends. It's a thing that you get with family that I don't have the experience, but it's the trust element and the willing to do it all the time. It's the passion.
That's right.
That's what we have.
And that's what I did with Popper. He used to put me in that container, a 40-foot container, And I used to appear out the back and said, Dad, can I have a break? And he said, no, not until it's finished. Take some water. And that taught me to work hard.
I suppose that's what you taught me as well.
And his expression was job and finished. So
until
you finish the
job's
job, then you finish, then you can relax.
Yeah.
And we owe a lot of that family ethics to the success of this business. You know,
Yeah,
that's how he works. But you know, James commented the other day that you know, he's really impressed with the way you come on.
Is he?
He did. He said, my goodness, the change in Oliver over the last 9 months.
I don't know what happened, to be honest.
I think you got more into the social, learning the social media aspect.
You're right, as it happens. I think what it was I was actually listening to marketing videos out of leisure rather than work, and it was when I started watching marketing videos going to bed and on the weekend where it was really turning into more of a passion and a hobby than work. And when I was 18, you know, as you said, there is a big difference between 18 and 21. I thought it was rubbish.
I did say that, yes.
And I always, you know, shut you down whenever you said that. But now, I definitely see the difference between an 18-year-old kid and a 21-year-old kid. Yeah, I was going to say it's not a man. And
well, legally it is, but
there's still a hell of a lot.
There's still a lot to learn. Exactly.
And I'd have to admit that I know nothing. And the amount there is to learn is ridiculous.
Well, it's not you know nothing, it's that we've all got lots to learn. You don't stop learning even at my age.
Yeah, but 21 is so young.
So even now I want to learn from the people in the business. I want to learn about this.
Learn from the younger people.
Yeah.
Learn about the different types of content. And
I do, because technology is going to take no prisoners. It's all going to change.
That's right.
It's going to change again. The internet, as I said, 15, 20 years ago, even though it existed, was nowhere near as powerful. Many people didn't even have an email address, let alone a website. It was just unknown. We were still faxing and phoning. And phoning is very important, because that's how you build relationships, by the way. So that's very important in the umbrella business. We use the telephone. We like to, when people do answer the phone, we like to build a relationship.
Yeah, because you can connect with them better as opposed to just emailing them.
With an internet, with the best one in the world, an email or a newsletter, you cannot connect with people like you can in a conversation like now. You know, and that was the problem as well. The buyers, especially now, they don't want to meet. They don't want to talk. They don't want a relationship. They just want an email with a PDF or a video. And that's fine. But there's nothing like sitting down face to face and just chatting and talking.
Are you talking about from a selling perspective?
I'm talking about every perspective. But technology, that's the way it is. You know, younger people, far younger than you now, you go to, well, when you used to be able to go to a restaurant, you see them, they're all on their phones, but that's the way they communicate. People my age and older say, oh, look at them, you know, they're not having any
Well, it's an interesting thing that, because if you saw someone reading a book, you would think, oh, look at him, he's bloody reading a book. But when you see someone on their phone, you think, oh, he's always on his phone.
Well, that's my point. That is technology. You know, when I was a lot younger, I wouldn't dream of messaging someone on the phone because you didn't have that capability.
But the thing is, a lot of the time when you're on the phone, you're not just messaging people. For example, now a lot of time on the phone, I'm writing ideas down.
That's you in business. But I'm telling you, the people out there are looking at social media.
So, for example, if me and you were talking, and I quickly grab my phone, and you say, what are you doing on your phone for? It's because I've thought of something and I need to get it down.
I'm unlikely to say it to you now. Whereas if you were 15, I might say,
18.
If you've been on the phone for the last hour, I might say something like, don't you think it's time now to put the phone down?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is older people don't realise that, unfortunately, and there's no changing it, that is the way of the world now.
And it's going to change again.
Yeah, it probably will be. People will be talking into their phones.
Well, they already talk. You say phone someone, isn't it?
True, but if you want something.
Oh, like Alexa, get me a tea.
Find me the nearest coffee shop.
Well, we've already got that with Siri, but no, I get your point. It'll be a lot more
Yeah.
developed.
So
I think as long as you have a balance between technology and real life, like we got here, we got the technology there, then we got the landscape there.
well, maybe it's a sign of my age, but I'll go with that.
Well,
You know, the technology is a necessary evil. That's what I'm saying. If you want to live in this world now, you have to embrace the technology.
yeah.
But I can tell you, I'd much rather go and sit in that field.
Well, especially from like a business perspective about thinking, you would rather be in that field and think of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think, granted, I'd also want to do that, but I like having the technology there because the stuff I can research also generates ideas for me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I go on the internet, ideas come because I think, oh, look how they've done that. Maybe we could do this.
Do you know why? That's because our brains are different. They think differently because you are your age and I'm my age.
Yeah.
So I like staring and thinking, and I always have. And that's wherever I'm in the world, by the way.
Well, that's that's interesting actually, thinking about it. When I'm on YouTube now, it used to be just watching it for entertainment, but now, thinking about it now, every time I look at a YouTube video, I'm thinking, that's interesting. Maybe we could do something like that.
Well, when
And that's not just, that's Instagram, LinkedIn,
correct.
Everything. I'm thinking, how could we?
Well, when
do something like
planes
that?
start flying again, transatlantic, we will do that because there's some great things to talk about and show people how we work.
Mm.
You know, when I go into a store over in America and I get my ideas, I'm going to show some people because you know it's interesting and it's going to make great footage and it's going to tell our story because
That's the goal.
I've always taken ideas from America and tried to improve them. In the beginning, it was third-party ideas. It was other people's products, not copying. I don't copy, but just taking an idea and saying, "Can we do that better?" That's a great idea.
Well, there's aspect, and there's also the aspect of coming up with something completely new,
Yeah.
like the crackback.
But the car crackback was a personal thing because every
That's what
time
I'm saying. It was a personal thing.
Every time I got in my car after it's been cleaned or after I'd cleaned it, there's always some leaves on the bottom, and I just needed something that would sweep that
Yeah,
up.
so it comes from a personal
experience,
Yeah.
which I go back to, which I would never sell a product that I didn't believe in, or develop a product, I should say, that I did not believe in.
Mhm.
So yeah, and here we are.
25 years later, 28,
More than that.
29.
Yeah, here we are. As I said, it's very difficult times for people that work in companies, for companies themselves.
Mm.
You know, you just think of the airlines, you look at the news, the tremendous worry. And I'm not saying we don't worry, but it's because of the way we set the business up, how I set it up, that the worry is not crushing, that we all go to bed at night, sleep, put our head on the pillow and sleep, and that is because we have the core elements in a great business and we're an honest
We have the
business.
foundation.
Correct.
Once you have the foundation, you can then expand it, and that's what we're doing. You built the foundation, it's time to expand.
But you've got to expand cleverly. You don't want to get too big. You've got to get a I'm going to talk like an accountant here, I'm sorry, but I am. You know, you've got to get a return on your money, a return on the capital employed. So often businesses go and invest in something and it goes wrong. It's just they invest too much and it just goes haywire and it wrecks the business. And I've never done that.
People try and scale too quickly and they try and get as big as possible, and they say, look at our annual sales, but then you look at their profit and they never.
Well, that's what I always look at. I'm not interested in someone who says I do 100 million in sales. I'm interested in what profit did that make? What's their overheads? Because some big businesses have shown that they've made the profit, but they got huge sales, but look what's happened. They need bailouts, they're in desperate trouble, they're having to go for funding. And that was always my point.
So another good thing I thought about this podcast is it actually gives us the opportunity to have a conversation that we wouldn't necessarily have anyway. So I think it is a very good time for us to just for a father and son to talk, and I think it went well.
Yep.
And that's what I wanted to say, so let's go back to work.
Let's do it.